Alright, so today I'm going to be mapping out the rest of Boeko's 2026. Obviously, he's taken the racing world by storm, winning the 2000 Guineas in that way, like racing away from the rest of the field with Gustard, and I think it was like 4 or 5 lengths back to the rest. So he's obviously very talented, and he's got that undefeated tag on him as well. So, he could really be anything this year, I think. So we'll just start off with his feels like I'm doing like a school assignment. So we'll start with his pedigree. I'm not really like a pedigree guy. Like I kind of pay a little bit of attention, but you can see he's by Night of Thunder. So you kind of think, he might be like a miler or something. Like 2,000 meters or a mile and a quarter might be like too far. That sort of thinking, but you can see the red boxes that I put on. You can see it's the same horse. So his Grand Dam is a half sister to Dubawi. So that to me suggests that he will get 2,000 meters. He's got that double cross in his pedigree. So that's a really rare thing to see, that especially for such like an elite stallion like Dubawi. So I think he'll get a mile and a quarter in time. So we'll go on to the next part, the actual races that I think he'll run in. So the first one's pretty obvious, to be fair. It's the St James's Palace Stakes at Royal Ascot. It's the marquee Group 1 over a mile for 3-year-old colts and geldings. Can geldings race in it? I'm pretty sure they can, I think. But yeah, as you can see on the screen, the pros of this are, he's racing against the same 3-year-olds that he went against in the Guineas. There might be some good horses in the Irish 2000 Guineas that might come out and, go to this race and be, come in with a chance. I think Ray, the horse that won the French 2000 Guineas, he's being targeted at this race, so that'll be an interesting dimension to it. Although, to be fair, like coming from France, he might struggle with the track at Ascot, because usually it's pretty solid, like it's good to soft. So, I think Boeko's just gonna fucking win this. As you can see, there's no cons here, like running this horse here. He's gonna go off for like $1.80, $1.60. It'll be like Field of Gold running there last year, and he fucking destroyed them. So I think, Boeko is just going to piss up in the St James's Palace Stakes. Right, we'll go to the next one. This one, the difficulty level rises a little bit. We've got what the fuck is it doing? All right, the Sussex Stakes. Obviously, Group 1 mile at Goodwood. And this is the first race of the year where we see the 3-year-olds go against the older horses, the older sort of elite milers in Europe. As you can see in the cons, he's going to have to run against Field of Gold, Zeus Olympios, Opera Bello. If he goes there, they might go for a different route with Opera Bello, but he might have to run against Notable Speech. So the difficulty level is going to rise very dramatically in this race. And also Goodwood's a bit of a funny track to get around, as we saw last year. Field of Gold tried to do this as a 3-year-old, and he didn't quite like get the track, I think. And he had like an issue as well, but I thought he didn't really like enjoy it that much. But yeah, also the pros as well. Like he stays at a mile, which by this stage we know is his troop out and out. Like he's just a proper miler. And obviously, we'll carry less weight than the older horses. And I feel like this is the next sort of logical step for him, there's that French Group 1 for the 3-year-olds. I think it's like the Prix-Jean Prat, which he could go towards. But I think I'm gonna allude to this later. But I think having George Bowie and Billy Loughnane, like two young guys, like really ambitious, like they're gonna put him to the sword and campaign him quite daringly. So I think they'll go here rather than the Prix-Jean Prat, I'd say. All right, we'll continue now to the Juddmonte International. Now, this is what I was kind of referring to when I was talking about the pedigree. I think with that strong Dubawi lineage in his pedigree, I think he's going to get 2,000 meters. We saw like I think Paddington, we saw him try to do the Sussex Stakes, Juddmonte International double. Although he was racing at the same time as, I think it was Bade, or it was either, I'm pretty sure it was Bade who won that year. It's very hard to do, to go from the Sussex to the Juddmonte International, but if this horse is just winning these Group 1s easily and proves himself against the older horses, then I'd say they're going to go here. And I think, as I said before, they're going to campaign him pretty daringly. And yeah, as you can see on the screen, I think if he wins this, we can start putting him in that conversation with Frankel and See the Stars. I know at this stage it's very very ambitious, but this is the point of the video, to kind of see where this horse could end up down the line. With all these big races coming up. And the main con of this is that the Juddmonte International has been rated in the past as the world's best race, especially the year when City of Troy won it. It was a really international field. I think there was a Japanese runner in there in Dureza. So this race attracts horses from every corner of the planet, pretty much. When I say that, I just mean Japan and France and Ireland. I think there was an Australian runner in there like ages ago called Criterion, but that was a real one-off sort of thing. But yeah, it's such a hard race to win, and if he wins this, like, fucking fair play, because it'd be a massive ask, to go from being a miler up to a mile and a quarter. But I think there's a world in which he could do it. And then we saw City of Troy do it not last year but the year before, and he was going from, he was already established at those further distances, winning the Derby, winning the Eclipse. So he was established, but it would be a different sort of kettle of fish if Bo Echo managed to do it going from a mile to a mile and a quarter. But if he wins this, I think, give him a little bit of time off. Like, don't go for the Irish Champion Stakes or, prep him for an arc, because I think that's madness. Like, See the Stars went from, being a 2,000 guineas winner to winning an arc, but, it's a different time now. I think that's just, like, too hard. But I think they'll, take September off. I think that's what I meant to say before. I think I said October. Take September off and go for the Champion Stakes at Ascot. It's the marquee 2,000 metre race at the end of the year. You get horses from France, Ireland. It's such a good race normally. And it was an amazing race last year when Calandigan won. And he obviously went on to win it in the Japan Cup. But it was such a good race last year, having those pacemakers go so hard. It really, put the cream rose to the top. That's what I was trying to find. The cream rose to the top, and Ombudsman and Calandigan, the two best horses finished 1-2. But yeah, if he wins this, it's the same as what he's achieved in the Juddmonte. I think, he joins that conversation with, the elites of UK racing, such as Frankel and See the Stars. But yeah, like, he may have to run against Calandigan or Ombudsman, and Benvenuto Cellini, who I think is going to be the top dog at Ballydoyle this year as a 3-year-old. That's a separate conversation in itself, but the Champion Stakes is normally an amalgamation of the best middle distance horses in Europe. So yeah, if Bo Echo manages to have a preparation where he wins the Guineas and then works up to winning a Champion Stakes, like, you cannot fault that horse ever. Like, I'd imagine if he's unbeaten at this stage too, like, that would just be fucking madness. But yeah, this last race, this is part of the daring campaigning that I suspect might happen with this horse if he just keeps winning. Keeneland. Wait. Oh, fuck's sake. This is so stupid. Oh, there we go. All right. Breeders' Cup Classic at Keeneland. Obviously, this is a very very far-fetched race that he would go to. But I think, why not? If he's undefeated, like, and imagine he wins it at the Breeders' Cup Classic on dirt for the first time. No horse has ever done this from the UK except for Ravens Pass. If he managed to do this, like, he's the best ever. Like, he'd just be the best ever UK horse, I think. Better than, like, maybe same level as Frankel, but, Frankel didn't go, like, overseas. He didn't run on dirt. But, bro, imagine if Bo Echo won the Breeders' Cup Classic. That'd be fucking just complete madness. Especially in a year where, Forever Young might go there. He might also go for a turf campaign. So, he might not go, but if he does, like, it's just a mad competition for Bo Echo. Feel a bit deluded, like, talking about this, but but yeah, he'd have to run against Forever Young, Sovereignty, Renegade, who ran second in the Kentucky Derby, Golden Tempo, and some other, like, horses that'll come out. Maybe a horse like Wonderdine or Done on Bourbon, like these emerging dirt horses that are going to be, forces to be reckoned with in the years to come. And then, I'll put a little note there at the bottom as well, like, if he does go here and it goes to shit like it was City of Troy, who just couldn't handle any aspect of the race. It does put a little dampening on, but at the same time, I think if you really like racing, like you have to respect horses that go outside of their comfort zone and try and do the impossible, essentially, like City of Troy did, and like Bo Echo might do. So even if it does go to shit, it's like respect. You went and tried. That sort of thinking. And then the last slide, I just put oh my god, this is so AIDS. Oh, all right. Okay, so say he runs in the Juddmonte International, and for whatever reason he doesn't get a mile on the quarter, and like he needs to drop back to a mile, then I think they'll take the September off, like, and just go for the QE2 at Ascot. Back in his comfort zone. By that stage he will have been like a really established miler. Although that race does throw up a weird result usually, like for example last year Cicero's Gift won it 150 to 1, and I think that was like the joint highest price like ever to win a Group 1 in the UK with Karat. I think Karat in the Sussex Stakes was the other one. But yeah, I think the QE2 at Ascot would be a nice place to finish off your season, and then they might retire him, or they might come back for all guns blazing as a 4-year-old. So there's plenty of options for this horse, but I think with his elite pedigree, and he's really like determined, want to take over the world type feeling of George Bowie and Billy Loughnane, I think he might do some crazy stuff this season. But yeah, if you like this video, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. I normally do like racing previews, a few recaps here and there, that sort of thing. So yeah, see you later.